Hey everyone. We have a few minutes before we're going to start.
No
Uh,
talking.
we'll probably start right around a minute or two past the hour. Give all those slackers a chance to get in here.
Yep. Any any late arrivals, which is okay.
I feel like we need music playing in the background.
We could have some hold music maybe in the future.
Some pump up music, maybe like a video playing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It could definitely be good. Sakes.
Morning, guys.
How's it going, everyone?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
We will be
Good
starting here in
morning.
just a minute or two.
I was looking for Sarah. She and I are texting. I think she's having a hard time getting on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was wondering.
No,
She,
I'm here.
oh,
Oh,
there we
you
go.
made it.
There you are. What are you under?
Why does it? It says Shannon Goldberg is my
Oh, how
name.
funny.
Ah,
I was
Oh.
wondering why my name was in there like th twice. I was like, oh no, it's in there three times.
We've cloned you. That's
I
why.
just clicked on the link you sent in the calendar invite, and
Oh, yay, you're there.
Yeah.
that's super funny.
You look prettier than me right now.
Unlikely.
Oh, thanks.
You guys too.
You shouldn't have.
So funny.
Well, I think what probably any last minute stragglers? I know we have a lot, so why don't we dive into it, Josh?
All right. Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We have a special guest who, as you guys know, is the guru when it comes to Arizona real estate market stats, and she'll be walking us through all the data today. But before we jump into the numbers, let me ask you a question. If you had a guess right now, what would you say, like, where would you say the Phoenix real estate market is? Is it getting stronger? Is it getting weaker? Or is it just staying flat? Most people actually get this wrong, but by the end of today's update, you'll know the answer. And right now, there's a lot of noise out there in the headlines about interest rates and housing affordability, but what really matters is the actual data and what it's telling us here locally. And today, we're going to walk through all the numbers here in the greater Phoenix market area. We're also going to look at Scottsdale and Paradise Valley so you can clearly see what's happening in those areas as well. And we'll cover where the market has been over the past year, where it stands today, and where the current trends, are going and what could happen over the next couple months. And so, as we go through the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll either address them as they come up, or we'll wait to the very end and do a full Q&A session, as well as like a deep dive at the end of the presentation. If possible, make sure that you're muted throughout the presentation unless we call on you. And going forward, we are going to host this market update every month. It's going to be the second Wednesday of every single month. So put it on your calendar. Do it right now or right after this presentation because we don't want you guys to forget. That being said, Morgan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Hey, and just real quick, I'm Morgan. That was Josh. We're with the Mojo team. And please join us today in giving a warm welcome to our dynamic duo from Navi Title, Shannon Goldberg and Sarah Perkins. Both are seasoned sales executives at Navi with 22 years each in title sales. They both got into title right out of college and they've collaborated closely for the past 3 years at Navi. They have navigated every market cycle from the 2005 boom and crash to today's recalibration. They deliver real, actionable insights through content, education, and trends analysis, with Sarah providing a fresh, data-driven market blog each month on the azmarket.com. Navi Title, in its fifth year, holds the top spot for market share for residential resale in Greater Phoenix, and Shannon and Sarah are your unified resource to help agents stay ahead and deliver top value to clients. Shannon and Sarah, take it away for today.
Thanks. That was awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're excited. Let's do this.
All right, Shannon, you were gonna say anything, or you just want me to start
You
talking
can-
about the market?
Yeah, you go ahead and roll into it. I am making notes here. If there's anything that pops up, I'll jump in, but I'll let you have it today.
All right. All right. Well, I'm kind of, so I like to just pick a lot of the things that are like main topics that are going on, industry news, market news, stuff like that. And Morgan and I talked a lot about kind of specific market, specific data. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share the things that I found, because anyway, I'll show you. There's a whole lot of stuff in there about specifics in our marketplace, which I think is actually really exciting, because the more you understand the specific markets within our greater market, the better we can, be at guiding buyers and sellers, or as a buyer and seller, making the right decisions. So with that being said, I want to talk. Oh, I do have to mention this. This is not super exciting or sexy, but the federal government is requiring it. If you have not heard about this already, it's called FinCEN, and it was a policy that was passed under the Biden administration and pushed through under the Trump administration. So it is bipartisan, and it is about watching out for money laundering, which unfortunately does happen in the real estate industry. And so essentially all the title companies nationwide, or settlement, if you're outside of Arizona, the settlement companies are required to get basically a form to be completed by the buyers if they are buying in an entity. They're buying as, a person. If Sarah Perkins is buying a house from Shannon Goldberg, like, we're good because they know our names and where we live. But if I'm gonna, buy as an LLC or a trust or any entity, then I have to complete a form that basically tells the federal government that I'm a human. Here's my real info. This is where I live. This is how you find me. It is not publicly recorded. It is not for anybody, so like celebrities can still be hidden and things like that. But it is something that is absolutely required for every closing that it has. And also like private money, cash, seller financing, anything like that, it will also be required. So this is a document. If, the agents on here, if you get phone calls asking, hey, what is this? That's what this is about. They can also always call the title company. If you're a consumer and you're saying, why is this a new form I have to fill out? It is required, and you cannot close without it.
Yeah,
it is real serious.
Question that I had real quick is, will they have to fill out the document no matter what, but do they also have to submit the formation documents for the LLC, or can they just fill out the form?
It's just filling out the form. They do not need, my understanding is that they do not need to add any documentation or anything. It's an online form that goes through. Title has to, kind of confirm it and things like that, but it goes through. It's all done online. I do not believe that there is documentation required for it, but I could be wrong. But I'm under the impression it is not necessary.
Nice.
Yeah, and it goes out typically a few days before the close of escrow, and you just want to make your clients aware of it, that they'll be receiving it. Once again, only if it's an LLC, corporation, partnership. If it's just, standard purchase with one person or two people buying the property, you don't even have to worry about any of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it really won't take long. There is a processing fee because it's a push through fee. So title, we do collect it, push through to, of course, it's got to go to the government. And so I've seen different title companies that range between $200 and $400 for this fee. And it just is.
It seems like it's another way for the government to make $200 to $400 per file across the United States.
Well, I think it's really their attempt to track, every dollar, since so much of money laundering gets funneled through real estate, where cash deals coming from overseas or other things, they don't have a way to source those funds necessarily, and then bought in an LLC. And so it'll be a good thing, I think, at the end of the day, to help kind of some of the shady transactions.
For sure. And there's, you know, it's like, I think it's Wyoming LLCs that literally need no documentation of anything anywhere. And so I know even some banks won't accept certain LLCs. For the most part, all of the entities in Arizona already require a lot of this information. So it's not like, oh, I need to hide that. But occasionally there's going to be things, and it's usually like high net worth people, celebrities, things like that, that want to like bury themselves.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, had to talk about that. Now let's talk about the market.
Woo!
Ooh, so this is one of my favorite charts, and I believe we talked about it last month, but if we didn't, here it is for this month. And this is a snapshot of everything that was listed in the last 4 weeks in Greater Phoenix, of all those new listings, essentially in the month of February, of all those new listings. What percentage went under contract in the first 2 weeks of being active? And that's 24%. It's a nice, we're hanging out above where we were a year ago, 1.2%. We had that nice pickup at the, the very beginning of the year of things kind of going quickly as we had some fresh stuff hitting the market. It has curved down a little bit. I'm going to be watching this closely to see what happens in the coming weeks, and I will show you why, because I actually anticipate this to tick up a little bit. And there's some reasons as to why I think it'll tick up. But this is a thing that is so important as a seller or as a realtor advising sellers, is that the first 2 weeks are so pivotal, because, and that was actually Redfin like a year and a half ago put out a report that said, most buyers will say anything that's been on the market for 14 days is either overpriced or broken. And that's a buyer mindset that sellers need to understand. And so when you have some people, especially ones that want to push the market and say, hey, maybe let's just see if somebody wants to pay me this much for my house, which we all know no one ever raises their hand and says, I want to overpay for your house, especially not in this environment. So this is why it's so important that they listen to you straight off straight away when the house is listed, because that's your best opportunity to kind of hit the ground running and hopefully be within this 24%, because that means 76% of listings are not going under contract in the first 2 weeks. Yeah. And I also was there a comment?
No, okay. Sorry, I'm gonna mute myself.
No, you're fine. I do want to point out, I do have the mortgage rates. They did come down a little bit yesterday. They popped up a little bit today. They're about 6.2 as of the last time I checked. I know the reports just came out for the CPI. It came out this morning. It wasn't really reflecting anything that was unexpected, but where a lot of the kind of noise is coming from is, I'm sure a lot of people, unless you drive an electric car, have noticed that gas prices are up a little bit. So that's putting pressure where people are like, oh no, inflation's going to be higher, even though the report didn't reflect it. Next month it will reflect it with these prices that have just come up. But so rates are a little volatile. Plus there's a lot of things happening with around Iran that has pushed our interest rates up. We did touch 5.99 for about a week, and that really did increase some of our demand. And this is kind of where I want to go with that, is this is looking at our overall supply and demand. We're like 0.5% more on the market this year at this time than we were this time last year, which is kind of wild because this was a 30% difference between 25 and 24. So what's happening is our supply is not increasing right now, and I will show you more on why that's happening. But with our supply not increasing, but our demand is up almost 8% year over year. We're actually matching 2023 numbers, which is really exciting, because at this point in 23, we were actually in a seller's market. But right now we are still, and I'll kind of show you about that too, we are still in a buyer's market. It is a weak buyer's market, but we're in an improving buyer's market that will likely be reflected in coming weeks, because we are starting to see this pop a lot with our listings under contract. This is very exciting. A lot of sellers are happy because we are seeing more that are going under contract, and buyers aren't being the extreme bullies, and sellers are also not, asking for the moon quite as much as what I've been, kind of hearing. So this is a really good chart. trajectory, this will also help stabilize prices. And oh, I have some stuff to talk about with prices. This is what's, I think, super interesting when we really want to talk about, okay, what's going on? Why are our listings? I mean, like you look at our overall supply. Normally we have a typical kind of curve up this time of year. Why are new listings down 19% year over year? And a lot of people don't have an answer. And this is happening nationwide as well as here locally. It's even more pronounced here locally than it is nationwide. And, so yes, we're ahead of all the recent years. And then even if you look at the 5 years before COVID, we're at the bottom. We have the fewest new listings that we've seen in almost 12 years. And that's unusual. And so there's, a number of conversations around why is this happening? Why are we seeing new listings drop so much when it's kind of seasonally unusual? Some people are saying the lock-in effect, even though that is loosening, we do actually have more borrowers with a 6% or higher rate than we have with 3% or lower. So, that is kind of coming to balance out. But this is something that I do believe will be unfolding in the coming weeks, and I'll be watching it very closely, because why are we seeing this decline in new listings? And right now, some people are questioning, is it the Iran thing? Is it just, volatility? Is it pressure with our jobs report was really pretty negative last week that came out? We found that we lost 92,000 jobs in February. And so, a lot of things are being revised down. I don't know if this is just kind of some instability in the overall market that people are kind of just holding on. And I mean, a lot of it's going to be about what's going on with jobs. So we'll be watching closely, but it's interesting. I don't know. Do you guys have any feedback as to, are you seeing anything with listings coming down or fewer new listings coming?
That's pretty strange. I guess I wasn't expecting you to share this, because, yes, historically we usually bounce up around this time of year. So
exactly.
I'm honestly pretty surprised to see that this number is down right now.
Yeah, and trending down, which is which is definitely interesting, because March traditionally is such a heavy listing
It's our biggest
month.
listing month ever in
Yep.
Greater Phoenix. It is the #1 listing month for the last 25 years.
Yeah, so it's going to be real interesting to watch that over the coming months and to see if it is the uncertainty that's just out there in the general market where people are choosing maybe to pump the brakes a little bit. And yeah, that's gonna put some extra pressure.
This honestly does kind of trend though with the stock market. Like if you were to take this graph and put it up against the stock market, you'd also kind of see that the S&P 500 has also kind of taken a dip over these, first, 9, 10 weeks that you have on here. So, maybe people are like, well, I've lost a certain percentage of my down payment. And so instead of listing my house and selling it right now, I'm just going to hold tight. Interest rates are still a little bit high. There's this war with Iran. Like Morgan said, a lot of uncertainty out there. So,
yeah, and most sellers are looking to turn around and be buyers. They're not just selling to get out of the market completely. Most of them want to turn around and buy something. And so
like 70%.
Yeah, those extra, that interest, like Josh said, interest rates in the war, they might just be choosing to wait a little bit.
And corporate earnings could be a big thing, because especially with the luxury market, that moves when we're looking at what's going on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if later on this year we have like a big pop up as far as number of listings in comparison year over year. But I don't know. I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens over there in the Middle East.
No doubt. No doubt. Oh, always keeping us on our toes, I suppose.
That's right.
Oops. So then, and if we look at some of this of what's going on with breaking down with the Cromford Market Index, which does analyze the relationship between supply and demand, you see some of this movement as well. And this number, and Tina, I was on a call with her yesterday. Tina Tambor was talking about how she anticipates with the added listings under contract, with the lower interest rates, even with all the things that are going on, anticipate seeing the market, the overall market index to start ticking up. We're already seeing an improvement in demand, because for the longest time we were hanging out at like 80%. We're 100 is normal or balanced for demand and for supply, and we've been hanging out about 20% below normal. We're now down to 15% below normal, which does take into consideration all those extra things that just went under contract, how we're seeing that improvement. And because we have that dip in those new listings, the supply index is likely to start falling, because this is taking a snapshot of the overall market, not just the new ones, but this will start to come down. And when you have the supply index come down, you have the demand index come up, we're going to see our overall index improve for sellers. And what we're seeing now is, while we don't have a lot of green on these the 18 main cities, what you do see is, these are very weak sellers markets. And then at the cities at the very top, all of the movement that we're seeing here is based on supply, and supply did kind of get pretty high, especially last year. In a lot of these markets, it started to come down. And what's also really interesting is, if you look at everything that's at the top, those are the centrally located cities. Then when you kind of get into balance, and then especially in the buyer market, those are in the cities in the outskirts. So whenever you have a market shift, the outskirts feel it first and then improve the last. Where the more centrally located you are, you feel it the last and are the first to improve. So as we're seeing some of these changes, some of it is even simply that we're having smaller negatives coming in for these improvements, but this will likely change in the coming weeks towards kind of benefiting sellers. So just kind of how to look at this, whenever you see these red arrows going down, that benefits buyers. Whenever you see the green arrow going up, it benefits sellers.
Is there any particular reason why Tina said that she believes the market's going to kind of turn around over the next few weeks?
Simply because the supply is coming down and demand's coming up.
Okay. Yeah. Because there's less new listings coming on.
Exactly.
And even if demand just
Yeah.
remained the same,
It brings it closer.
People are going to gobble up that supply. So, okay. So she's thinking it might kind of start balancing out a little bit more. Okay.
Provided all things stay the same. Yeah.
Yeah. But right now, according to what we're seeing, is that it's a slight buyer's market right now.
Yes.
So being able to go in and negotiate a great deal and maybe get some concessions or whatever else, agents are willing to, or I should say sellers are willing to pay a commission.
Yes, they are.
Buyer. So.
And we're seeing over 50% of all closings are having seller paid concessions. And those are very, very specific to price point. Really, the most concessions, I'm doing this from memory, it's like between 150,000 and 600,000 will be up in the 70 percentiles that are paying seller paid concessions.
Do you guys track what percentage of closings pay a buyer's agent?
No, I've asked, but we can't pull any data from because everything's like super top secret, right? Like all the things on the settlement statement, I can't pull any data off that to aggregate. I've been begging.
Okay.
But no.
Yeah, just as a team, I feel like 19 out of 20 closings sellers are paying some sort of compensation to the buyer's agent, but
I mean, since Sitzer, and all the changes with NAR, there's been trend lines that are showing buyers agents are actually getting paid more than they were prior to the verdict and the changes with NAR.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, just because before the changes, obviously the market was super hot, and
Right.
And sellers or I guess listing agents were offering like a 2%, co-broke, or a 2.25%. But now you can go in and, demand 3 if you want. So.
And sellers, if they also recognize that if they want to keep that buyer, they've got to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so this is looking at some of the things within prices and price reductions. We did see a stronger January this year than we saw last year, but what's so interesting is this is the average or the median price reduction before close comparing January over January. And what's really interesting, so the blue is 26, the orange is 25. We actually had a lot more price reductions this year despite having interest rates at almost a full % lower. So what that means is over the last year, I think a lot of people really realized that, and especially buyers realized they had a lot of power, and they've come in and they know that they can ask for the moon, and the sellers know that they have, there are more sellers than there are buyers. And I think everybody in the marketplace understands that. And so this is kind of a representation of some of those buyers coming in and, waiting for the prices to come down and then, negotiating it further, by the time it closes.
Hey, I'm sorry. Did you say blue was 25 and orange was 26?
No, 26 is blue.
Well, okay. All right. Sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's in the upper right. So yeah, this last or so far in 26, sellers are coming further off their price in order to get a deal under contract than they were
Yes.
just last year. Yep.
Yes.
On average.
Yes. And this is broken down by price range. And then this is the same story, but by city. And so again, 26 is blue, orange is 25. But then here you look at your main cities to see what is happening. And, it also makes sense when you look at some of those softer markets, like further out, like Queen Creek, it's going to have a bigger differential than, Phoenix, which is central as you can get.
Yep.
So these are good things to set the stage with any of your sellers, making sure they understand what they're up against, both based on price point and location.
Yeah, and I would say this chart too is indicative of the longer your home stays on the market, the more there is an expectation from buyers that you are going to make adjustments to the price. And so, when buyers are looking,
what my next slide was.
Yeah, I'm reading ahead, huh? Yeah, the longer you're on, so I'll let you take it away. But
no, exactly what you're saying. This is 100% of what you're saying. This is Greater Phoenix of all the sales in the last 4 weeks. And again, it's the longer a house sits on the market, the further away it gets from that original asking price. So, exactly to what your point.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a good slide and always good to keep in mind for sellers and also agents. When you have literally 24% of all new listings are going under contract in the first 2 weeks. So that's going to say, hey, they priced that home fairly, appropriately, however you want to categorize it. But then after that 2 weeks, the longer you spend on the market, the further you're going to get away from that initial list price. i.e., this is just not the market to, spray and pray or put a high price on it and say, I'll wait for my buyer to come along, because the longer you wait, the more you're going to be coming off that initial list price. And
they don't come. They don't show up. That buyer doesn't come.
Yep.
And what's really interesting what you just said, the first 2 weeks, those listings that, go under contract the first 2 weeks, look at this. This is also, this is 22% are either closing at original ask or over ask. So, I wonder if those correlate. Likely, I don't have, kind of the cross reference to do it, but very likely when you sell it faster, it's going to get it's just going to be for closer to that ask.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is a kind of one, we're going to go a little more granular in some of the details. I have a lot, I called it the Mojo Corridor. I'll show you in a minute, but this kind of goes to some of the things that we've seen where we know that the luxury market has done quite well. We know that higher dollar price points have been selling faster and for more. And what's really interesting, like if you look, this is year to date. Year to date in Greater Phoenix, we've had 21 sales above $10 million. At this time a year ago, we had 3. So, our high luxury market is still doing very well. Now we'll see what happens with, kind of things as with having Wall Street taking a little bit of a beating and some things have softened. We'll see what happens, but luxury has been very strong. And this is national report. It's looking at the 366 largest metros across the country. And it's really showing the higher the sales price, the faster they're selling. Now, of course, it has to be priced, appropriately. But, what you're seeing is people with more dollars to spend tend to have less impact of, be less impacted by mortgage rate volatility. They have less, the shoestring budgets, so they're a little more flexible, able to get into some of these higher dollar sales prices. Where some of those kind of more bread and butter marketplaces, they've got a tighter budget. Every little movement in interest rates matters, and so those houses are actually sitting longer. And this is completely counterintuitive to everything we've seen prior to the last really 3-4 years.
Yep.
And this actually ties into, so I cried it. So as Morgan and I were talking about, like, a focus area is, I know you guys do a lot of business in here, and this central kind of northwest valley, but not extreme, not as far out as Fountain Hills or Cave Creek or anything, but pretty centrally located zip codes that are in Scottsdale and PV really have been the strongest marketplace within our entire marketplace. And even when we look at, a metro area, there's 5 million people here. So it's a very large metro area. And so that's why you're going to have things that are very, very, different across the board. But what I think I found a lot of fascinating insight when you just look at these pockets right here, this particular, kind of focus area. So I wanted to give you a visual of when I call it the Mojo Corridor, because we're going to see some very different numbers when we're going to compare what's happening across the board. And so what this is just Maricopa County. When I say just, I did not include Pinal County in this one because we were just keeping it as tight as possible. And we're looking at, okay, our overall median sales price in Maricopa County for single family, now this is single family only, is about $513,000. It's down a little over 1% year over year. A lot of this stuff we've been talking about for a long time. We know we are in, a weak buyer's market, but it's a buyer's market. When you have that, prices do tend to come down. None of this is overly shocking, right? Like this information, this is what we've been talking about. But when you do the Mojo Corridor of just this area, holy smokes, it is a very different story. And that is why when we talk about the strength within that luxury market, these, the area that we're kind of talking about, like main part of Scottsdale and Arcadia and some parts of, kind of North Phoenix, we have a lot of strength and a lot of higher dollar sales. And this is the example of, the people that have more dollars to spend are spending it because they can. Now, if you look at this is what really got me. Almost 13% price increase year over year. When I saw that, I redid those numbers like 4 times because I was like, there's no way that this is accurate. I even made a slide to show the, all the things. I didn't. Anyway, I have it and I'll make sure you guys have it. But yes, no, this is very real. And this is what we're looking at in that particular market. It is still very competitive. And look at this, prices are going up. And just what we were talking about with days on market, overall, Maricopa County is at 83. In this very specific corridor, it's only 77. It's almost a week shorter to sell that property. And this, again, is somewhat counterintuitive to what we've seen long term, because usually when you have those higher dollar prices, you have a smaller buyer pool because fewer people have those dollars. And
yeah. And just to jump in, I think that number would probably actually even be a little bit lower, but because you do have so many true luxury homes, like 5 million plus, that kind of tend to skew these numbers and they'll spend a little longer on the market, therefore increasing that average days on market. But when you look at even that 1 to 2 million or so, kind of your typical or 1 to 3 even, what you can get into parts of Arcadia Light and Scottsdale and everything else. I mean, it's pretty competitive right now.
It's wild. I did not expect to see this.
Is this including Paradise Valley as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
if you go back to
the
median sales price, though, so yeah, that's still impressive.
Yeah, and the median is not really going to be influenced by those the ultra luxury sales as much as the average price per square foot is.
Correct. Yeah. No, this is pretty awesome. And then just to clarify, it says total sales 443. It says up 31% month over month. Is that right?
Yes, and so January is always a weird month. Like it's just January is weird because you're looking at closings, but basic, contracts that were written in December. December is our lowest contract month, which kind of makes January one of our lowest sales months. So you always have a big step up month over month.
Okay.
I mean, even when you look at the whole county, it's way up.
Sure.
Yeah. 23%. Yep.
Yeah, I always, you got to take December and January with a grain of salt just because they're weird months. February is like our first normalish month. And right now, February tracked pretty much similarly to last year, at least in activity. But I do anticipate March will have a lot more closings than last March.
Okay.
And then goes even deeper in what, kind of more of the information of of Maricopa County, new listings, average days on market, how many sold. It gives you month, 3 months, 6 months, 12-month prior. So if you really like data, you want to dig into some of this is, again, a comparison. Then I did the Mojo corridor. It's still reflecting the same thing of, new listings are up, active listings are up, under contract is up. Days on market's down. Again, this is really showing a lot of strength within the Mojo corridor versus Maricopa County.
Yeah. Yeah. And if, Sarah, do you mind just popping back to that zip code chart real quick and just a quick refresher? So guys, what we're kind of looking at here is what you'd call the Northeast Valley, but the kind of the central areas of the Northeast Valley from essentially like Arcadia, Biltmore, so you're kind of inside the Loop 51, and then up to what most of your clients would say, I can be north of the 101, but not too far north. So you're in within 85255, and then over basically to about the McDowells. It's, kind of what some people may refer to as like the bubble, or, a lot of us live in this area. And so that's kind of taking a look, but the Northeast, other than like Chandler and Gilbert, this has definitely been the strongest market, especially over the last few years.
Especially for pricing. It's got a lot of pricing power. And that's even true too. I know we did. And then I also have it for condos and townhouses. So we broke them up separately. So again, here, Maricopa County condos, there's a lot of condos on the market. So we have seen a lot of softening in the multifamily arena. It's down, our median sales price for condos and townhouses in Maricopa County is $350,000. It's down 4% year over year. But then now you take the Mojo corridor. I like it calling it Mojo corridor. Anyway, you take this area, you're looking at $550,000. This is still higher than the median sales price for single family for the county, and it's up almost 4% year over year. When we know there's a lot of competition within condos, there's been a lot hitting the market just for the last few years. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of competition with luxury rentals as well, which does put pressure on the sellers.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think if you're buyers, if you get just outside of that, you can get a really great deal on a condo right now, but probably not so much in the Northeast Valley. There are still some deals, but not a lot. There's more deals than there were a few years ago because condos are the weakest part of the market across the board. But if you're in that Northeast, corridor, they're still doing pretty well. The Mojo corridor for sure.
The Mojo for sure. It's doing really well. And I want to kind of add to that. So we've seen such a spike in multifamily that they've pulled back. And this is kind of what you always see, like an overcorrection, right? So they have stopped pulling permits for multifamily. I mean, they have stopped building. And so what that means is in a couple of years, we'll have a shortage. Right now, we're not going to. And so that's one of the things, if you're looking for a long-term investment, and you want to get something cheap, go and buy a real cheap condo right now, because it will gain value probably 28, 29. I mean, we're talking long-term hold. You're not going to be flipping this thing. But if you put some renters in there, you're looking at, potentially making a lot of money down the road when the shortage actually comes to fruition. Because, it always takes multiple years to get caught up on seeing the outcome of the lack of permits. And then I also have it condos and townhouses kind of going deep again. This is Maricopa County. And then again here, like, the days on market are longer than within that Mojo corridor. You just have a lot more activity in both in single family and in multifamily. And multifamily, like you just said, has been fairly weak, but single family has been very strong.
Yep.
And then, oh, this is my last slide. I just thought it was super fun and I love kind of showing these like really big numbers or really big things. So this is taking statewide appreciation over 40 years. So, everybody first looks at, if we're all in Arizona, they look at Arizona. And then if they're not from here, you look at where you grew up. And so, it's fun to see what has happened over the last 40 years. And this really illustrates how powerful real estate ownership is. Now, most people don't own their house for 40 years, definitely recognize that, but there is not a single negative on here. The national average is 455% increase in 40 years. Arizona's at 445%. We're barely, kind of off that the national average. But you look at like Washington State, it's almost 800%. I mean, this is crazy what some of these numbers are showing, but it's really fun to look at. And this is something like, if you share it on social, if you just, want to put it out there, it's a great conversation starter. It's a, way to talk to any of your clients if you haven't talked to them in a while and just say, hey, what, are you from Chicago too? Look at what Illinois did, so.
Yeah, this is a really interesting map, especially, like you said, the Northwest prices there. And last time we met, you showed, I believe, another graph that was moving as far as where people are moving to Arizona from. And Washington and Oregon were two of the top states. It's really interesting by numbers and also percentages. But those people, a lot of times are coming down pretty flush with cash based on their real estate prices and everything there, which are clearly pretty high, and heading down. I feel like the Northeast is up because there's just so little construction in the Northeast regardless, and that probably accounts for a lot of that.
Yeah. There's nothing changing, but then, and the housing stock is old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to appreciate like some of the ones that are newer too.
Yeah, I would think over the next, 10, 15 years, we'll probably catch up quite a bit in Phoenix. I mean, you still have available land and building, and that's, I think, one of the reasons we maybe have. I mean, look at Texas. Texas looks like a bargain at, only 300% in the last 40 years.
That's funny.
And it's got to be result of, because they do have so much land and new construction, they can just kind of keep pushing further and further out.
They are. Yeah.
No, not too different than Phoenix.
No, I completely agree with you. And if you even look at like almost the maturity date, if you will, when we started really seeing giant movement, I mean, Texas has really seen a lot of people going there only in the last, I want to say 10, 15 years. It's always been, it's people kind of like, you don't mess with Texas. And they kind of just didn't think about it. But now it made the news today. ExxonMobil is talking about changing their headquarters from, I can't remember. I think it was like New Jersey, and it's where it's been headquartered.
Yeah, Jersey.
Yeah, it's been there since like 1882. And now they're talking about moving to Texas.
Wow. I'm almost surprised they hadn't done it already. But yeah, because of a few years ago, Jersey had a wealth tax on some of the, they have some of the highest tax rates in the entire country. And I know a few years ago, one of their wealthiest people had moved out, and that took like a 3% hit on the state's tax basis just by this one individual, moving. Who has questions for Sarah in regards to any of these charts and numbers and stuff we can kind of dive deeper in? This is great. I mean, this is really great info. It's really interesting, and all across the board. We would thank you, but you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or what do you guys think?
Maybe you did such a great job, Sarah, that no one has any questions.
That's exciting.
Great information. Thank you so much.
All right, and I'll make sure Shannon gets a copy of the PDF to share with your team of all these slides. So if you want to look at anything in greater detail, you'll have it.
Yeah, I would say, oh, go ahead.
I would say, I mean, as usual, Sarah, thank you so much. This is like so incredibly valuable. And as I listen to it every single time you do it, I'm like, this is really valuable for agents to use when talking with their buyers and sellers. And as you mentioned, I thought you were going to send it to me, but I'll make sure I get it over to the Mojo team and they can share it out and we can go from there.
I want to go back real quick just to that slide in regards to month over month and price declines from your original list price. Because I think that's such a valuable
This one?
slide. No, a little right there. Yeah, this one. The one with the red arrows. There, right there. Yeah. So to me, guys, this is such a valuable slide. You know, it would seriously be worth printing out and potentially taking it with you on every listing appointment where you can just kind of go through and now this is looking at just 1 month, but I'm sure if you went back in time, the data would be pretty similar. And that would be interesting too to see this graphed out over a year or more or anything else. But it just shows the
same.
relation of, you know, again, the longer you stay on the market, the more the numbers show you're likely to come down off your list price. And that it works a couple different ways. You know, sellers get a little tired of being on, and so they'll start kind of making adjustments. But many times those are often needed adjustments and everything else. But you know, you're obviously going to do best if you can find a price that will get it sold in that first 30 to 60 day or, you know, 0 to 60 days in order to have the lowest decrease. And I always tell my clients too, you know, especially if it comes time to make a price reduction, and Josh will probably vouch for this as well, but usually when you reduce your price a little closer to what buyers are expecting to pay, your offer gets better, not worse. Because buyers feel like they don't have as far to get the seller to move. So if you're pretty close to a number they want to pay, they're going to offer a much better starting number because when they think they've got to get you down 100 grand, they're going to offer 200 less, you know, to try to meet in the middle. So I just think this is a really powerful slide in the sense of over time. How that
Yeah,
affects.
and I have this. I mean, I have this chart weekly for a couple years, and so we can look at all different markets. And the thing is the story doesn't change. It's always these arrows always look like that. And I've done it for different market like price points, you know, over $1 million, and even in like the ultra luxury, if we do it over 3, and we're talking like then we're looking at $500,000 off and off that original sales price when you get there. And so, especially if you're in some of those higher dollar markets, these numbers kind of get alarming.
Yep. Yeah, where they're coming down, you know, 700, 800, $1 million, you know, to sell it after, you know, 6 months or so.
Completely true.
And guys, Sarah's going to customize this for us because we're going to do this monthly, as I mentioned in the beginning. And so, is there anything that you would want her to cover next month, maybe that we didn't get to this month, or is there a part of the valley that maybe you want to hear just a little bit about? No? Anyone?
If we,
Tony?
I'm sorry to jump in again. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm sure I will come up with something between now and next month, but this was, I mean, I gotta say, this was pretty damn informative. I kind of wish I had one of my clients on this thing, and I'll make sure he's on it next month, just so he can see some of these statistics. I'm on my cell phone because I'm enjoying outside, and I've been zooming in and zooming out like a crazy person. I think I had to re-enter the Zoom meeting a few times because my phone kept screwing up. But I like this 2-1 through 228 statistic that you've got with that percentage of the price points going down as it stays longer on the market. And I just think it's good to show, your new sellers, whoever's got a new listing coming out, it's like, look, hey, I know you think your home is worth X because it's your home, but hey, numbers don't lie. So,
Nope.
it's
All these
it's a
sellers
really
over,
good tool.
yeah, all these sellers at 121 days plus, they thought the same thing of their home. But if we go back even a couple more, I thought it was interesting because for 5 years or more, Chandler was in the top spot as far as the hottest market overall. Chandler is completely landlocked, fully built out. You have Intel down there. It is it's pretty centrally located in the sense that you are the farthest west, so you can get downtown, you can get to Scottsdale easily. It's relatively newer construction. You have some real nice areas, even some luxury areas. Ocotillo, you guys know Chandler well, but the point is, it routinely takes the top spot. And as far as, because there's not that much inventory in Chandler, and the demand is consistently high for all the reasons I just mentioned. And Fountain Hills had actually taken the top spot for the strongest overall top to bottom market. And now it's just interesting to see that Chandler has reclaimed that. And you see it was at 151, now it's at 149, Fountain Hills. But I just found that kind of interesting, that because Chandler is like a relatively small market overall, limited supply, but always steady demand for it centrally located. I mean, outside of the Northeast Valley, Chandler's always strong. So that was an interesting thing I noticed.
People aren't leaving.
Yeah.
I live in Chandler. Like, people aren't moving.
Yeah.
My neighbors, I've been in my house 10 years, and 3 of my neighbors across the street have all been there longer.
Well, and there's not, when you look at it, there's not that many places to go unless you want to. If you go north, you get older, right? The homes get older, they typically get smaller. Same thing if you go west, maybe if you go all the way out into Ahwatukee, but that changes the dynamic of your convenience and everything else. And then and then it's a big flip to go into like North Scottsdale, like 85260 or anywhere else. Like that's a big jump. And so most people, if they're going to move out of Chandler, they typically move more south and more east to get a little bit newer, maybe a little more. But so yeah, it's a pretty, basically if you come up with a listing in Chandler, you're pretty much guaranteed to sell it. As long as you price it fairly, it'll move super fast.
As long as you price it right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to touch on something that Tony had said, number one, I would definitely recommend that all of you guys, like, once again, mark it down on your calendar for the second Wednesday of every single month. If there ever is a change in the future, obviously we'll let you guys know. But I think just having all this information that we're armed with, that we can go back to our buyers and our sellers with, just these exact hard numbers and, explain the market to them, or anyone who even ever asks us, anywhere that we're out. I think it's always great to have all this info. But then also any current buyers and sellers that you have, or anyone who's, you've been talking to and they're thinking about buying or they're thinking about listing their house, I would definitely invite them to be part of this call next month, because then they can, hear it straight from Sarah and see all the numbers themselves and get a really good understanding of what the market's doing. And that will help you get, a better list price when it comes to listing their house, or help the buyers through the process. So, I definitely invite them to be part of this. And then after, gives you another touch point so that you can call them up after the call and say, hey, what did you think? What are your thoughts? Maybe they're like, okay, Mario, I'm ready to buy, So,
Yep.
but yeah, Sarah, this is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think this is helpful too along those lines for understanding and some of the hot spots of the market where there's going to be more competition, but then also where some of the opportunities lie. It's like Sarah said, right now there's big opportunity in the condo market. I actually just put a condo under contract, and I was going back for comps, or even just like 6 months, and I went a year looking, and pretty much most of the list prices. So this was like the lowest anything had sold for. We were over 10% below what the lowest condo had sold for the past year. So, I mean, it was, yeah. So, I mean, I was like, even at list price, this
Wow.
is a deal by all rights, you know. You are, and that was interesting. And then, you know, obviously we got a little even more off that. And so there's, you know, that's a pretty squishy market right now is that condo product. And like I said, especially if you get out of that Mojo corridor, that Northeast Valley, you get anywhere to the outside of it. Maybe, you know, some submarkets like Chandler, it's not going to be quite so easy, but condos in general, if you have maybe first time home buyers or someone like that, that kind of needs a lower price point and also a deal. I mean, I think there's some big deals to be had. And then like Sarah said too, it's going to turn around because we know that they're not pulling permits right now. And so here and people are still moving here. So in time, it's gonna, you know, go the exact opposite direction. And all of a sudden there'll be not enough condos and they're gonna be selling like hotcakes.
Yep.
So
Yep. And those prices will be strong.
yeah.
Yeah, Morgan and I were talking this morning, and I literally think that we are at pretty much the bottom of the market right now. And so I'm telling all my clients, like, look, if you want to get a good deal, now's the time, because if you wait till the fall or even 2027, like you're just going to miss out on locking in a great price right now. And once again, being able to negotiate concessions and, you know, maybe even lowball a few properties. But
So, and one thing when people, this is one of the things that is though it's counterintuitive, but prices bottom in a seller's market. So but we don't know about it until we're out of it, right? Like it always, but it's what gets them to start curving back up is because enough demand is happening. And that could be happening right now, especially with the lack of those new listings hitting the market.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Any other questions, guys? Anything else that we can cover?
I used to watch the Tina Tamborg every month as well, so seeing this is kind of cool. It's more like a snapshot of her monthly thing as well. One of the things that she always did, which I really liked a lot, was a breakdown of price points and square price per square foot for the different values, like under 500,000, between 500 and a million, and then a million above, just to see those different changes in price per square foot month over month is always a great thing that I always use when I talk to clients so they can see the trending of month per month of price per square foot.
Nice.
Yeah, Sarah, maybe we can add that in as like another
I
slide.
have it. Yeah, I can. I have it.
Okay.
I was watching, you know, it's funny. Ironically enough, Tina's the one that hired me as her assistant in 2004. That's how I got into this business. She was a title rep back then.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, Tina's great, but spending an hour and a half kind of learning about every little micro part of the market is just it's too much. Like this is nice because like I feel like we can actually digest what you're sharing with us and be able to, you know, incorporate it into our conversations later on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yep.
All right,
Well,
guys.
awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate everybody coming out and joining us. We want to be respectful of your time. You know, our goal is to always keep this to within that hour. And so we're right on time.
All right. We will see you guys later.
Yep.
Bye, everyone.